Welcome back to the online sessions on signals and systems. In today's session, we'll start with the Laplace transforms. Now, in the previous sessions, we discussed with the Fourier transforms, where using Fourier transforms, we have simply found out the Fourier transformed version of the time domain signal. So, in the Fourier transform, we have found out the values of the signal in the frequency domain, which depends on j omega axis only. So that means here when you divide this particular entire plane or a page by a vertical line here, and this is going to be horizontal, this is going to be the 0 point here, zero line here. So all the region which is going to be above 0 is going to be the positive j omega. All the region below this 0 is going to be the negative j omega. So here in the case of the Fourier transforms, we have represented the signal to exist either in the plus j omega or minus j omega axis. Throughout this plane, this particular value is going to exist in the Fourier transforms. But in real time, what happens is some of the systems are going to produce these signal values only under certain region of convergences. That means it is not going to produce it is not going to have the values over always plus j omega axis, always minus j omega axis. It will be lying somewhere here in this region, so that is what basically those kind of system outputs can be analyzed by using the Laplace transforms. So therefore Laplace transforms are meant to analyze the differential equations, which is normally going to solve the LTI system outputs, where we normally going to represent the system outputs as a region of convergences also. So here in the case of Laplace transforms, apart from finding out the Laplace transform of a time domain signal, we are normally going to represent that particular time domain, that particular Laplace domain equation in terms of the region of convergence like this. So the ROC is going to be the extra representation which we normally use in the Laplace transforms to represent the signal. So therefore, finally, what we can say is the Laplace transforms are normally used to represent the signals, the signals which are mentioned in the continuous time domain. Therefore, Laplace transforms are used for continuous time domain signals to represent region of convergence of the value and the value of the function of using the Laplace transforms. So therefore Laplace transforms are really meant to analyze the continuous time signals, not for the discrete time signals. So one more advantage of Laplace transform is wherever the Fourier transforms does not exist, but the Laplace transform can exist based on the condition. So that is what the Laplace, we cannot say that Laplace transform is going to exist for all the conditions. The Laplace transforms are normally going to exist for certain conditions where the Fourier transform does not really exist in that particular condition. So that is what basically the Laplace transforms we normally meant for. So finally, what we can say is the Laplace transforms. The Laplace transforms are normally going to provide solution of higher order differential equations, because the higher order differential equations are going to be quite tedious and time consuming compared to the solution of the algebraic equations. The algebraic equations are very simple than the higher order differential equation. So therefore, using Laplace transforms, we normally going to convert the higher order differential equations into the small differential equation, small algebraic equations, and we solve this simple algebraic equations to provide the representation of the signal in a time domain to the S domain. So S domain is known as a plane. So that means here in the case of the Fourier transform, we represent Fourier transform only in the j omega domain. In the j omega domain, that means imaginary domain only we normally going to mention, where we consider only one axis, which is called vertical axis. Coming to the Laplace transform, we represent Laplace transform using the real part and imaginary part on the plane, on the S plane. So therefore, using the Laplace transforms, we can provide more amount of information to represent the signal in the S domain. So that means using Laplace transforms, we are going to have two choices to represent, whereas using the Fourier transforms, we have only one choice to represent the signal, which is what? J omega choice. Whereas here we are going to have sigma and j omega choices. So the Laplace transforms used to solve the differential equations. Laplace transform is nothing, is known as is a powerful mathematical tool used to convert the differential equations into algebraic equations. And Laplace transforms, in solving differential equations, we take the Laplace transforms of differential equations, insert initial conditions, solve the resultant algebraic equations to get the final solution in the S domain. Okay, so this is what we have in the syllabus about Laplace transforms, where we have to find out the transformed signal in the S domain from the time domain. Now let us look into the mathematical form of the Laplace transforms here. The Laplace transform is nothing represented by capital L. So L of x of t we can write as equal to x of s. For Fourier transform represented as f of x of t as equal to x of omega. Now here for Laplace transforms we represent Laplace transform of a time domain signal is defined as L of x of t, and in short form we can write this as x of s. Now we can write this as equal to integral of x of t e power minus st dt. In the case of Fourier transforms, we represented s, instead of s we have got a j omega. We got j omega instead of s. Here we got s here, where s is nothing but the combination of sigma and j omega, which is the complex frequency component, which contains the real part and the imaginary part. So sigma is the real part, this j is nothing but imaginary part. So where s is going to consider the real part and imaginary part of the axis, and we'll discuss about what is this real part, imaginary part in just in a quick while, right? Now in this equation A, x of t is a time domain signal because it is with respect to time. Now and also x of s is also is a frequency domain signal represented in S plane. So this x of s is a frequency domain signal represented in S plane. So why it is called a plane? What is a plane? Let us take a piece of paper. This piece of paper has got two quadrants, say x quadrant and y quadrant. And when you simply join these two on other part, we normally going to get a plane. So the similar to that is that S is going to have a joining of 2 points, two planes, two planes, that is sigma and j omega planes. When you join these two axes, we get sigma is one axis, j omega is going to be another axis. When you join two axes, okay, or when you join two quadrants, you normally going to get a plane. Therefore, we simply call it as the S plane. So that means here x of s is a frequency domain signal represented in the S plane. Okay. So there are two types of Laplace transforms. One is going to be the two-sided Laplace transform known as bilateral Laplace transform, or single-sided Laplace transform known as the unilateral Laplace transform. The equation A is represented as a bilateral Laplace transform or double-sided Laplace transform because the limits are extending between minus infinity to infinity. So this can be expanded as something like limits expanded, limits are going to get expanded something like minus infinity to 0 and 0 to plus infinity. Thereby I'll be having two-sided Laplace transform. Coming to single-sided, we simply going to represent either 0 to infinity or minus infinity to 0, going to be called as a single-sided Laplace transform representation. So unlike just like as the Fourier transform pair, we normally can have a Laplace transform pair representation given by x of t is going to form a Laplace transform pair with x of s. That means both these signals are same, but only thing is x of t is a time domain represented signal, x of s is going to be the Laplace or a S domain represented signal for us. So inverse Laplace transform is same as once again the inverse Fourier transform 1 by 2 pi. One more part we're going to get, imaginary part is extra here, j integral of x of s e power st ds we'll write. Okay. So here, whereas this particular part is going to be limits are for the S plane here, therefore sigma minus j omega will write, and sigma plus j omega, this omega is going to go to infinity. So that means on y axis we're going to have infinity here, plus infinity on the y-axis minus infinity on the y-axis we normally going to consider. And here why we have taken this sigma as only positive, because we always consider the Laplace transform to converge, the values of the Laplace transform to converge should be compulsorily for all the values for sigma greater than 0. Therefore the sigma value is going to be the real part. The real part should be compulsorily greater than 0. So like that we are always going to consider the Laplace transforms to get the real values of the Laplace transforms. So therefore finally what is that we can have now? We have to find out the relationship between the Fourier transforms and Laplace transforms. That is also one of the important derivation for the examination point of view. Derive the Laplace transform from the Fourier transform. So we know the Fourier transforms can be used for continuous time signals. So here we know the Fourier transform continuous time signal represented as something like this: x of omega or x of j omega. So intentionally we removed this j part, because anyhow x of omega is represented for the complex signals only. So here I am explicitly saying as j omega, because I am simply moving into extending my concept or extending our concept from Fourier transform to Laplace transforms, where one more axis we are adding here or increasing here called sigma axis. So that's why Fourier transform representation is x of j omega is equal to integral of x of t power minus j omega dt. That is the basic Fourier transform equation. And Fourier transform can be calculated only if x of t is absolutely integrable. That means the absolute value of x of t should be integrable value according to Dirichlet conditions. It should be a finite value. That is one of the Dirichlet conditions we have. And x of t is normally going to give us a value 1 by 2 pi integral of x of omega e power j omega d omega we have. So replacing this replacing j omega by, now how do we derive this? We have to derive the what is this Laplace transforms from the Fourier transform. So to derive this, we replace j omega by sigma plus j omega in the standard Fourier transform equation. So in the standard Fourier transform equation, we have x of j omega. We replace j omega by sigma plus j omega, and x of t will be as it is here, e power minus j omega is replaced with j omega is replaced with what? Sigma plus j omega into t into dt. Okay, so this is what the form we normally going to have. Now sigma plus j omega is known as S domain, so therefore I can write this as S, which is nothing but equal to S, and x of t into, I can separate this exponential part as into e power minus sigma t into e power minus j omega t dt. So this is, let's say, equation B I am going to have. Okay, so I have an equation A above, and next I am going to have an equation B here. So this is the general form of the Laplace transform, and I have an equation B now here. Now I have an equation B here, just now I got. And inverse Fourier transform also we have an equation x of t is equal to 1 by 2 pi integral of x of j omega into e power minus j omega t d omega. That is the inverse Fourier transform basic equation. Now let us go for derivation now. The complex frequency variable sigma plus j omega is known as S for us. Therefore, if you differentiate with respect to d omega, ds by d omega is equal to j omega, I can write, is nothing but j. So here I can have this as something like omega is a differential component. When you differentiate with respect to omega, I'll be having j here. Therefore, I can write this as d omega is equal to ds by j. So therefore, d omega is equal to 1 by j, 1 by j, 1 by j into ds, I can write. Let us substitute this d omega part here. Now where is x of s now? X of s is here now. X of s is here. So x of s is equal to what I can write as x of s is equal to x of t into e power sigma plus j omega is known as st into dt, and x of t is equal to 1 by 2 pi j x of s, this is, into e power st ds. So this is the form we normally going to get over from the Fourier transforms. So from Fourier transforms, we can easily derive the Laplace transform basic equation. So here d omega I can write as equal to 1 by j ds. So this j has come over here. So 1 by 2 pi j ds is written as over here. So therefore x of s e power s t ds. So these two are the Laplace transform equation, Laplace transform equation and inverse Laplace transform equation. Using Laplace transform equation, we convert time domain signal to the S domain signal. Using inverse Laplace transform, we convert S domain signal to the time domain signal. So this is what the very important equations, just like the Laplace transform and inverse Laplace transform equations. You should remember compulsorily these two equations. So very important equations for the entire Laplace transform expressions what we have now. Okay. Now, can I really convert Laplace transform to Z transform? See here, if this sigma is equal to 0, for example, if sigma is equal to 0, this particular equation is same as the Laplace transform equation. See here in this equation, let us substitute sigma is equal to 0. I'll be having x of j omega is equal to x of t into e power minus j omega t dt. What is that I have got? From Laplace transform, I have simply got the Fourier transform. So for sigma is equal to 0, it is simply equal to the Fourier transform only. So what is the difference here? Here is only extra axis called sigma has been simply added here. So in the above equation, it is clear the Laplace transform is nothing but the complex Fourier transform if sigma is equal to 0. That means if s is equal to only j omega, I can simply represent this as equal to x of s is equal to x of omega. Means Laplace transform become equal to Fourier transform if s becomes equal to j omega for us. That means sigma is equal to 0 here. So I can just simply reverse. Also I can convert Laplace transform to Fourier transform or Fourier transform to the Laplace transform by simply adding and removing the sigma component in this particular equation. So this is what the basic concept we have here for the Laplace transform representation. Now next important point in the case of Laplace transforms is the region of convergence known as ROC of the Laplace transforms. The extra thing we have in the case of Laplace transform is that region of convergence is the region of convergence in comparison with the Fourier transforms. In Fourier transforms, we have not really looked into the region of convergence, because if at all a Fourier transform is going to exist, the Fourier transform has to exist over j omega axis only. So therefore, there is no question of convergence of the Fourier transform at a particular region only. So it will be existing over the entire region of j omega axis. So the y-axis, if you define, if you derive, if you normally going to draw x and y quadrants. So for example, if this is x quadrant, this is y quadrant. Say sigma axis is x quadrant, this is y quadrant. Now, this in the case of the Fourier transforms, we don't have sigma. We got only j omega. So the function is going to exist over the plus j omega or minus j omega continuously. It is not only lying at some place only. The value is going to lie only at some place. It is not the case in the case of the Fourier transforms. So in order to exist a Fourier transform, the value should converge over the entire j omega axis. That is what the problem with the Fourier transforms. But in real time, what happens is the value or the system value is not going to converge over the entire j omega axis. It may converge over a limited period, so that we will be operating the system only in that area where we are going to get the values from the system. So that is what the extra advantage that we are going to get in the case of the Laplace transforms. Right. So that's what the change we have in the Laplace transforms in comparison with the Fourier transforms. So the most important point of discussion in the case of the Laplace transforms is going to be the region of convergence. Apart from apart from finding out the mathematical equation of Laplace transforms, we have to have the region of convergence for the Laplace transforms also. If at all in the exam you'll ask about find the region of convergence, then you have to draw the pictorial diagram for the region of convergence. So that means region of convergence is known as a graphical representation of the convergence of the signal or existence of the value of the signal. So that is what the basic difference here between the Laplace transform and Fourier transform. In Fourier transform, we don't have ROC. In Laplace transform, we are going to have ROC. That is what extra burden that we have that we should undergo in the case of the Laplace transforms. Okay. That means in order to design a complex systems, we normally going to use the Laplace transforms. All right. Let us go with the region of convergence today to end up our session. So the range of values of sigma for which Laplace transform converges is called region of convergence. So region of convergence depends on the range of values of sigma. So it means here for the Laplace transform to converge, the value of sigma should be compulsorily greater than 0. What is sigma? Sigma is known as real part of S is known as sigma. What is S? S is equal to sigma plus j omega. So sigma is known as real part of S. So the real part of it should be compulsorily greater than 0 for the Laplace transform to converge. That is what the concept that we have here in the case of the region of convergence. So the basic equation of Laplace transform is equal to what? X of s is equal to integral of minus infinity plus infinity x of t into e power minus st dt. We have the equation. So st I can write as s is equal to sigma plus j omega t. So that means when I replace separate out now with sigma and j omega t, I can write it like this now. X of t into e power minus sigma t into e power minus j omega t dt. So now this equation, if it is taken as equal to some different function as y of t, so I can write this as what now? Simply Fourier transform of, I can write this entire equation as Fourier transform of y of t. Yes or no? So I can write this equation, entire equation as simply Fourier transform of the function now. So therefore, I can write this as simply Fourier transform of x of t into e power sigma t is nothing but the Laplace transform of this function. So don't get confused here. That means here from the above equation, Laplace transform is nothing but the Fourier transform of the function y of t is equal to x of t into e power sigma t, I can write. So to exist the Fourier transform of y of t, this x of t into e power minus sigma t should be absolutely integrable. That means it should really give me a value. It should be convergible value. So therefore, in the above condition, if the above condition is satisfied, then the Fourier transform will exist. In other words, Laplace transform is also going to exist. If Fourier transform is going to exist, then definitely Laplace transform is going to exist. But reverse is not true. If the Laplace transform is going to exist, we cannot say that the Fourier transform is also going to exist. So in other words, Laplace transform x of t exists if above condition is satisfied. It means if Fourier transform exists. The above equation gives necessary condition for the Laplace transform to exist. So the functions which are not Fourier transformable may be Laplace transformable. That means for certain finite values of sigma, we normally going to have the Laplace transforms. That means if the Fourier transform is not convergible, you can make it convergible by considering the sigma t, where the sigma t values are taken to be of real values. That means if the real component of s is going to be greater than 0 for those values, the Laplace transform is going to exist. So this particular concept we deal when we deal with the problems now. In the next class, we normally go with the dealing with the problems now. Okay. So with this, we'll stop introduction to the Laplace transforms. In the next class, we'll go with problems on the Laplace transforms. Thank you very much.